What's up YouTube? My name is Stav and today I'm going to walk you through my personal AI workflow. This workflow was originally inspired by Brandon Hancock, shout out to him, links below. He shared it about a year ago, but AI has come a long way since, so I've updated it with my own twist. We're going to start by brainstorming project ideas with Claude, getting a clear understanding of what we want to build, and then taking those straight into Cursor where we'll turn them into real working code. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand how this workflow fits together, but you'll be able to use it in your own project. And even better, make it your own. All right, so let's get an overview of how this workflow actually looks like. We've got three simple steps here. The first step is all about brainstorming. This is where you and the AI go back and forth and shape your idea. You might come up with a vague thought, and in the end, you will have a fully fleshed out concept. The second step is where you take that concept and do a deeper dive into the features. We break down what features you want, what you don't want, what you're going to use, and we're going to use the first file that we've created in order to do that. And the last step is all about implementation and taking that file into Cursor and letting Cursor do whatever it needs to do. Or if you want, it will help you as a professional developer break it down step by step of what you need to do. So let's get started. So for the first part of the AI workflow, we're going to create a Claude project. Now, I know some of you don't know how to create a project in Claude, so I'm going to walk you through that in the next part of the video. But for now, we're going to keep it a high-level overview of the AI workflow. So we're going to create a project, and in that project, we're going to prompt the AI to go back and forth with us about an idea that we have for an app or anything like that. So we're going to just brainstorm the idea. And with that, it's going to question us about the workflow, about the tech stack, and it's going to ask us questions that we may have overlooked if we just started and rushed into creating the app. Now, with that, it's going to give us a masterplan.md. So once we have finished with the questionnaire, which should take about 15 to 20 minutes, it's going to give us a masterplan.md. Now, that masterplan.md is going to have everything from the tech stack, the structure, the features, and a very high-level overview of what we're trying to accomplish. So we can think of it as the North Star for our app. Now, the second step is we're going to take that master plan MD and we're going to create a new project. And with that project, we're going to take that master plan and break the features down within it into more detailed features. So that way, we as developers can work on the actual user workflow, understand, if, for example, if you're going to implement authentication, we want to have a high-level overview, but in a little bit more detail about how a user will log into the app, what sections will the user be able to view, what sections are they not allowed to go on, and it kind of gives you an overview of thinking from a user's perspective of using your app. Now, in the final step, we're going to take the masterplan.md and we're going to take the feature roadmap.md, and this is where you will have as much option as you want and as much, I guess, autonomy of how you want to work with this workflow. We're going to take the feature map and the masterplan.md, and then we're going to give it to another project. Now, the reason I'm doing 3 projects is not because you can't do it in one project. You probably could do it in one simple project, but because you're going to go back and forth with the AI so many times, the context will run out very quickly with Claude. So what I do is I always create new projects and feed it the information from the previous step to make it much easier. So now we feed the third project, the masterplan.md and the feature roadmap.md, and we are going to get an implementation to do .md. With that file, what's going to happen? It's going to break down those features, and it's going to give us step by step of how we can implement this without code. This is important because it will at least help us break down the flow and how we can actually implement it. At this point, you have the option of either letting Cursor or any IDE that you use do most of the work, or you can actually take a step back and just follow the to-do list step by step, and you can implement it yourself. Now, the reason it's a to-do list is because I'm going to show you a little trick that you can do with Cursor, which you can follow step by step, and it's going to make your workflow much easier. So if you like vibe coding and you want AI to do all of the job, this will be such an easy way of doing that. So without further ado, let's get started with actually implementing all of this workflow in your IDE. All right, so now that you have a solid overview of how the AI workflow works, let's actually bring it to life inside a Claude project. Now, before we dive in, head over to the description and click on the GitHub link. Everything you need, the prompts, the setup info, and instructions is already there, ready for you to copy and use. So let's get started. Click on the Claude logo at the top left, and then click on Projects. Now, once you're in, you can see the button of creating a new project. And this is where you will need to fill out the information for the project that we're working on. So in our case, let's go to phase 1. Here, we just want to copy and paste exactly what I've put. You can name it whatever you want, but to make it easy for you, I've already created it for you. So what we're working on, just copy and paste. And what we're trying to achieve, you can just copy and paste this. And once you're done, you create a new project. Once the project is done, you can just copy the prompt and include it in the setup instructions. So if you click on setup instructions here and copy the prompt and save instructions, and you're all done. Now, it's important to do the same thing for the other two phases, for the breakdown and for the implementation. Now that we're done, let's move on to the next step. So now that we have the project set up, we are going to implementation stage where we're actually going to go through the workflow and see how it works out. Before I get started though, I just want to give you a quick tip on dictation apps. I use Flow. There's multiple flows. There is one Super Whisper, which I believe is a little bit cheaper, and there is Flow, Wisprflow. This is the one I use, but it essentially allows me to type much less. Especially useful for this type of workflow where I have to brainstorm and I just want to have my thoughts and ideas out rather than think about how I should write it. So this is extremely useful, and I would highly recommend to implement this if you can. I think there is a free 1-week trial for this flow, for Wisprflow, and Super Wisp, I believe, is free. But yeah, go check it out and let me know if it helps you. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, let's get started with the first part of the project. So for this part, all we're going to do is actually brainstorm the idea. We're going to dump everything we want in this particular chat, and we're going to talk about our app as much as possible, and we're going to give it as much information as we need. The AI, or the LLM, Claude, or whichever you use, is going to give us some feedback, and it's going to ask us some questions, and we're going to explore it together. So I'll give you a quick overview of how it works. I'm not going to go through it, but I will show you what the output is at the end. The reason I'm not going to go through it is it's going to take about 15 to 20 minutes, and I don't want you to get bored. So I'll do that for you, and I'll show you the outputs. So we'll start with something like, I'd like to create a to-do list with Next.js 15 and Supabase. I would like to learn about implementing CRUD with Supabase. And I would like the app to have basic features such as authentication, timers, and notification. So as you can see, this is a very simple explanation of the app, but all we have to do is just let the LLM do its thing. So let's see what it comes up with. So as you can already see, it's coming up with a few questions that will help us walk through the app and help us think about the app in a different way. So for example, it comes up with what specific problems we're trying to solve, and the target users, and all of that. So we'll go step by step and we'll answer some of the questions. But as you can see, it will keep asking you questions until it has a good idea of what you're trying to build. And also it will help you actually understand what you're trying to build and if there's any things that you've missed out on that you should consider. So as you can see, let's start with the first question. There is no specific problems I'm trying to solve in this to-do list. I'm just trying to learn how to create a CRUD app. The target users are just individuals, students and professionals that want to manage their time. For the timers and notifications, yes, I'm thinking more Pomodoro style focus timers. I haven't considered any unique organization approaches. So if you can recommend me some, that would be great. And for the planning learning project, I don't plan to release a product, but I do want to understand how everything is working under the hood. So as you can see, I'm giving it and I'm answering the information, answering the question that it needs and giving it all the information it's requesting. What it's going to do, it's going to ask me for more details. So you can see that this process is going to take at least 15 to 20 minutes. And as you go, you'll start seeing things that you missed. So for example, with authentication, we'll dive deep into what type of flow would you like to use. Is it just a simple email password, or do you want to create a social login? It will just give you more ideas and it will help you brainstorm. But yeah, I'm going to go through this whole process with the AI and I'm going to show you what the output actually looks like. So I'm going to pause it here and I'll be back once I have the output. So after going through the process with Claude, you will have a to-do app master plan. Now the master plan will be slightly different compared to yours, but it should have the same structure. It will have the app overview, the target audience, the core features, the tech stack for front end and back end, and some data requirements. So it will create you a structure for the database schema. Now, what you want to do with this is either download it or just copy it like I will and go to the second phase. And now that you're in the second phase, all you need to do is actually add the file you just copied. And let's call it feature breakdown. And include it to the memory for the project knowledge. Now, to kick this off, all you have to say is, I'm ready to start on the first feature, which is the task management. Help me break the feature down. Now, while that's thinking, it's going to have a look at each stage and it's going to help you out with creating the feature. Bear in mind that you want to include the latest information for your app. So give it as much context as you can about your app before you start this feature. Now, as you can see, it's the same as previous step. We'll take you through a questionnaire, ask you some questions about it, and it's such a great way of just thinking about your app from a bigger perspective. Like if you're going from a junior and you want to develop to senior, this is a good practice to just understand what's going on, how you can think about your app, and it will just give you another way of thinking. And as you know, LLMs are just going to get much better. In the future, you probably won't need all of this, but for now, at least it gives you a way to think about code and what you want to approach, and how you want to approach it, what you want to include. So those are great ways of just thinking like an engineer, rather than just letting the LLM do everything for you. So similar to the last step, I'm not gonna record everything I'm doing at the moment, but I will come back to it once I have the output and I'll show you what the output looks like. So once we get to the end of phase 2, we are going to get an output of the feature, and that feature is going to give us a very detailed overview of how we want to implement it. Again, this is no code included. It's just a high-level overview, but with a lot more details into the specific feature. Remember that every time you want to include a new feature, you will have to repeat phase 2 again. This is important because what you can do is actually take the latest version of your app with all the newest code that you have, and then the LLM will already know what it needs to include into it. I will show you how I'm doing it in a later stage of this video, but for now, let's continue with phase 2 into phase 3. So as you can see, you will get a very detailed overview of the tasks and the functions we want to implement. So like the creating tasks, the editing, and we'll then go into the UI and UX interactions. So we will have card components, we will have modals, we will have dialogues and those notifications. So we will think about all of those things that you might have not thought about, or maybe have, and you just wanted to put it on paper. It will also include some data models and relationships, so for our backend, and API requirements, again, covering every aspect from a technical point of view. I'm not going to go through everything. You will see this once you create your own file. But for now, what we can do is actually copy the contents. And as we did on the first phase, actually go back to all our projects and start phase 3. Now, what we're going to do is the same thing. Is we're going to create a new file and call it, let's call it implementation. And we're going to paste all the details we just have, and we're going to edit. So now that we have included the implementation.md file, let's also include the masterplan.md. So the LLM will have context of what tech stack we are using, and it has an overview of what we are trying to accomplish. And to kick this phase off, all we have to ask is for the LLM to start implementing this feature. Can you help me implement the feature which is outlined on the implementation.txt file? Now, as you can see, it goes through and going to ask you a few more questions. Now, the reason I've added this is to tailor it to the experience that you may have. It could be that you're a senior developer and you don't need to go through this, so you can just update the prompt to remove those questions. But I've made it so even if you're a beginner, it will ask you what level of expertise you have, and then it will break it down accordingly. Just like the previous two steps, I'm going to go through this whole process quickly. I'm going to answer the questions and I'm going to show you the output. And then we're going to take all the outputs that we had and go into Cursor. And I will show you how this flow makes it so much easier to implement those, and it will reduce the hallucinations by a lot. The final output for phase 3 should look something like this. It's going to have an overview of the feature, some context to it, and most importantly, a to-do list. Now, the next step that I'm going to show you is going to include Cursor. It's up to you whether you want the Cursor to do most of the coding for you and let it run, or as a professional developer, if you want to learn and expand your knowledge, you can literally just go through step by step and follow the guidance of the LLM to create the app as it shows you. So it will tell you to implement Supabase. It's up to you to go and find out how to implement those if you don't know, and it will just be a good way of learning. But for those who want Cursor to do 90% of the work for you, I will show you an easy way of doing it. And you'll also see why I've specifically outputted a to-do list. It will make it much more simple to show. So let's jump right into it. So now that we've created and completed the 3 phases, we should have 3 different files. One is the masterplan.md, the second one should be the feature breakdown.md, and the third one should be the implement.md. Again, you can rename them, but for our sake, we'll just keep them consistent. What we want to do is actually go to our app and create a new folder, and we'll call it workflow. And now take those 3 files that we've created previously and insert them into the app. Now, before we actually implement anything, go to the cursor settings. You can press Command-Shift-P and go to cursor settings, and just make sure that on features, the auto run mode is enabled. This will allow you to let the agent do the work without you needing to interfere or you needing to sort out as much. This is only if you want the agent to do most of the work. Now, all you have to do is essentially tell Cursor to look into the master plan and the feature breakdown and follow the to-do list on the implementation.md. So let's do just that. So before pressing send, a couple of things to double check. First of all, make sure that agent mode is on, so you can press Command I or just click the drop down and click agent. And with the prompt, ensure that you tell Cursor to read through the masterplan.md file and the feature breakdown for that particular feature that you want to implement, and tell it start following the to-do list step by step. In my case, I told it to start with the core components, and each time it completes a task, it should tick it off. So I'm going to press send, and I'm going to let it run for a little bit, but then I'll come back and show you the final output of this workflow. Bear in mind, you can give it a massive to-do list and it will do everything it needs to. So I'm going to press send, and I'll show you what it looks like once it's done. Now, for the sake of the video, I'm going to press stop and just show you what it's done. As you can see, it's created the layout, the dark mode toggle, and all the components we need, and it ticked it off step by step. I stopped it because I didn't want this video to go for too long, but just to show you what it can do. And I would have, if I left it, it could have done everything step by step, and it would have probably worked as well because we are not creating a complex app. But as you can see, it can go through each step of the to-do list and create it for you. And the more context you give it, the better it is. So for now, I'm just going to accept everything that it gave me. But as you can see, it's updated all the stuff. So if we look into, let's see the toggle, let's try and find the toggle, see if it's created it. And yes, it's created a toggle for us. And now all we have to do is implement it. But as you can see, it's done it for us. I didn't have to write a single line of code. I just told it to look at the implementation stage and actually work with it. So that's it, guys. That's the whole workflow. I'll be improving it over time, so make sure you keep an eye out on the GitHub repo. I'll drop the link below, and if you like this, go ahead and give it a star on GitHub. Also, don't forget to hit subscribe, like the video, and drop a comment. Let me know what you want to see next, and if you got any ideas on how we can improve this workflow. I generally want to hear from you guys. In the next video, I'll be covering some cool stuff around agentic patterns and building agents. So if that sounds interesting, definitely stick around. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.